Okay, here we go. Jeff Cotton, amazing player, slide guitar, back from the 70s, all these great groups back then. And look at that view in the back. Beautiful. So how you doing there, Jeff?
I'm doing awesome, man. Maui is beautiful today, sunny at
Yeah.
about
Yeah.
78 degrees.
Oh, that's beautiful. How about did you survive those fires out there?
Oh, I survived, but when you're ready, I'll give you that story.
Okay. Yeah.
It's
Well,
it's uh, it's going to shake up a lot of people.
uh-oh. All right. Well, let's talk about music first.
Yeah,
And your guitar playing is
gonna shoot.
phenomenal in those records. I mean, so how did you start? When did you get interested in playing guitar?
Well, I got my first guitar on my 13th birthday.
Okay.
My dad and mom, my dad and mom had good friends. I'd been singing harmony with my mom, who had been an entertainer and had her own program before she was even married. So her and her girlfriend would get together at the airport where we lived. I live at Plains,
Right.
and so we owned a cafe. And so late at night, my mom and her friend would get together and sing all the old songs. And I would sing harmony with them from the time I was
Oh,
about, I
okay.
guess, seven, 8, or 9. And I started playing clarinet in the fourth grade.
Oh
So I learned
boy.
to read. And so that was really awesome. And then, so when the guitar came along on my 13th birthday, I had been a speed roller skater.
Oh, really?
Um, yeah, I was a champ, never been beat one time.
You were a champ.
And I,
Oh,
yeah,
that's a
and I
story.
was wanting to go on. I was wanting to go on to the roller derby because
Right.
that was starting to happen. And then I saw that was kind of like the wrestling thing. It's all trumped up. Not a good word
Right.
to use, but anyway, it's all, you know what I mean.
Yeah. Oh,
So I
yeah.
went, no, I don't want. As soon as it was awesome. My friend, the lady that my mom would sing with, her husband had it in their up in their, what do you call it up there? Their
Balcony?
attic, up in the
Attic. Okay.
attic. So my dad took it unbeknownst to me, fixed it up, put new strings on it, and he did a good job of setting it up. It surprised me. The strings were at the
Hmm.
right height and everything. Beautiful arch top Kay brand, which
Hmm.
was
Okay.
really famous 60s. So anyway, I took 4 lessons and I learned Walk Don't Run by the Ventures. So the Ventures was my first inspiration, and
Oh,
they were
okay.
older than
Yeah.
all of us, right?
Yep.
So they were really, really accomplished musicians. They could actually hold your attention with an instrumental because they were
Hmm.
so good. So I learned Walk Don't Run. I learned the lead and the rhythm. I
Okay.
remember walking
Yeah.
out of this and I went, I don't need any more lessons. I can just take the records and learn the songs from now on.
That's the
And so
easiest
that's what
way.
I
Yep.
did from that point on.
All
You
right.
know, it sounds like you're a musician too.
I am. I know. I played drums to a lot of records as a kid. That's how I
Ah,
learned.
awesome.
I took
Awesome.
drumming lessons, but they didn't do much good. The Buddy Rich drum lesson book, but it gave me some, made my wrists a little stronger. But
Yeah,
I played to a lot of records. That's seems like the way to go, especially if you're going to get into the
that's that is
rock
the way. If
world
you got
or
an ear,
yeah. So that's pretty
you
interesting.
got it.
Now, what were some of your guitar influences back then?
Well, it was the Ventures back
It's
then.
okay.
And I was basically raised almost, you could say, in a bar. My parents would
Okay.
go Wednesday nights, Friday nights, Saturday nights, and I would have to tag along. And so there was people like the Limelighters, Kingston Trio. What's his name? He did the Banana Boat song,
Oh yeah, I know what you're talking
all
about.
of that stuff. And I loved all of that. So I had a country influence. But soon as I started playing, like I said, I got into the surf It was surf music because it was
Surf.
before the Beatles.
Right, right. I remember. I've read about that. Now, were you raised in California?
I was born and raised.
How about that? That's something. So, how did so you started playing in? Did you start playing in bands like cover bands?
No, so here we were living in, it was the San Joaquin Valley, middle of California, the breadbasket. And we moved in, let me see, it was the middle of my sophomore year
Hmm.
to Lancaster, to the Mojave Desert, where, of course, everybody else in the Magic Band was from,
Yeah.
and
Okay.
Zappa. We all went to the same high school.
Oh, wow.
What was your question?
So that's pretty interesting. That's how you met all those guys was in high
Yeah,
school.
yeah. So that's, oh, to answer your question. So
Yeah.
I met a guy named Merrell, who he was older than me, 7 years. Actually, he was Don Valite's age. And he had already had an album out, and he was a really good guitar player and a good singer. Um, he heard about me through his father and my father because they both
Okay.
worked at the Lancaster. So
Oh,
they got together and said, "Hey, my son plays. Maybe we can get him together." Well, Merle came over to my house with his guitar and amp and stuff, and I had my music, my instruments. And after that first day playing together, we went, "Let's start a band." So that
that's
was the
something.
beginning of the Exiles,
Okay.
Exiles, and we had some local hits in the valley. In
Oh,
fact,
I
our
didn't
first
know
record
that.
went to number 9. I was 14 and it went up the charts.
That's something.
Yeah,
And then,
so that was the beginning. And then from there, that band broke up, and I started a group called the Intruders, and another little group called the Illusions, ALL, not illusions, but the
okay.
Illusions. And those groups had from time to time John French, Mark
Okay.
Boston, Bill Harkleroad, Blues in a Bottle. Have you heard of
Hmm.
that band?
I think so. Yeah, but vaguely.
Yeah. So Blues in the Bottle was at one point the exact lineup of Trout Mask Replica minus Don Valite.
Oh,
That's why
that's
we were so tight and so good.
ah.
We had played together. We'd even upstaged Beefheart one time because we
Hmm.
used to play these. I guess today we call them concerts, but people they packed them in, and we
Okay.
did a battle of the bands with Beefheart. Of course, we lost that, and we
Hmm.
did other battles of the bands, other gigs. But one time we played, and we got a lot better applause than they did.
Yeah,
We were
I've
we were
watched
hot.
I saw some of the early videos. Wow, you guys were tight
Yeah.
band. So how did Don get involved in all of this?
Well, he would when we'd play these gigs, he'd come right after one of the gigs or after one of the songs. Actually, in the middle of the gig, he came up and said, "Hey, man, that's really good, man. That's really good," uh, and stuff like that. So he was spocking us out. And so, of course, what happened, Blues in a Bottle, when we were really hot, at that point in time, John French wasn't playing drums. He was on the mic singing
Oh, he
lead.
was.
And
Okay.
we had another individual, good friend of mine, Don Geeson, was playing. So John was fronting the group, but Don was looking for a drummer because
Oh,
the
okay.
drummer he had, I loved his drumming. He had the most outrageous roll turnaround
Hmm.
I have ever heard, but he couldn't keep meter. And so
Okay.
Don wasn't happy with that. And well, not only Don, but the
Right.
other guys were not happy with that.
Hmm.
There was Alex St. Clair. Alex Snoffer played lead guitar at that time.
Right.
Jerry Handley played. Oh, he took John, and John came to us one day and said, "Hey, man, I've just been asked to be in the Magic Band. I got to do it." So we
Hmm.
lost John. Um,
Okay.
so the next year, um, John, of course, and Don knew who I was.
Yeah.
And so they pulled me in the next year. So
Okay.
so John did Safe as Milk. The next year they pulled me in, and of course we did Strictly Personal and
Right.
Mirror Man. Actually, Mirror Man was the oldest or the first
Okay.
to be recorded.
Oh, well,
But yeah, that's how that started.
how about
And then, of
that?
course, to let you know what happened is after that, we pull Alex and Jerry, much to my dismay and John's, wanted to leave the band. Don didn't want to play very often, if at all. He never rehearsed with us.
Hmm.
So he didn't really know his songs. He didn't know his lyrics and things, and so that's where we were at that point. And the guys wanted to leave because Jerry had a family. He had a kid,
Yeah.
and he
Right.
needed an income.
Right.
And when you're not playing or you're asked to play and you don't do it, you can't make a living
No.
with the group.
So why
So
did you
they
keep
living at that time in
so
yeah.
why did you keep Don in the band if he was such a loose
Why do we
cannon?
keep Don?
Yeah.
Well, because Don had such a strong personality, number one.
Hmm.
We're kids. We're 19, 20 years old. We've
That's
done a lot of
something.
psychedelics. We're
Yeah.
wide open. We're from the hippie generation. We're not hippies. We're musicians, right?
Right.
But Don was not. He was from the beatnik era. That's why you
Okay.
hear some of the songs he talks about
Right.
the
Okay.
carbon come and all
Yep.
this stuff. So he really wasn't into that, but he had such a strong personality, and we're young guys. So, and plus he had a name,
Yeah.
right?
That's true.
So, and at that point, what until Jerry and Alex left, and the Delta Blues, which we were, very
Right.
powerful
Yes.
group.
Right.
I mean, I've never known a group through the instrumentation, etc., as that original band. I mean,
Mm.
we played with a lot of big groups, and they were like, "Whoa, man," because they were city blues, and
Yeah.
city blues doesn't necessarily have that going down the train track. You get in the way of that thing, it may slow it down, but it ain't going to stop it. That's how Delta blues is to me when it's played correctly.
Well,
So,
you were a fantastic slide player. I mean,
uh,
man, you could really play there, Jeff. So keep
thank you,
going with the
Alex.
story.
Yeah,
So,
thanks to Alex, he turned me on to slide, and of
oh,
course,
okay.
I started with the metal slide. But actually, after I left the Magic Band and I started my group, I went to glass, and that's where I am today
Oh,
because I just love glass. It's so much more sustaining. It's
mm,
not as hard edged, but
right.
it's very, very sustaining.
Mm.
But anyway, yeah.
So this record is just so unique. I don't think in the laws of music history, I don't think there's ever been a record that sounds like that or will sound like that. So you guys really
Yeah,
worked hard to make that unique.
we
I'm
did
telling
work
you,
hard.
what I've read from this book of Mr. French here,
Yeah,
John,
yeah.
man, but and it's amazed how quickly you recorded it in the studio though, right? Wasn't it fast once you
Yeah,
got
we
in?
did. We did almost everything in one take.
Wow.
Never remember three takes for anything. But for
Mm,
us, it was just another day of rehearsal. Because
mm,
when you do that music and you spend 8 solid months or
that's
nine
something.
months,
Wow.
12 hours a day in the music, I mean, if you'll notice on the first few songs, like there's the ones we did, they call the field recordings, the ones we did in the Trout house.
Okay.
Um, I had to say is and boom, and we're gone. We're so rehearsed, we don't have to think about it. So when we went in the studio, it was the same way. Now
Okay.
laying down the vocals is another story.
Oh, I'm
Don
sure.
and I came back after that to do the vocals.
And what did Mr. Zappa do? Frank Zappa, did he do anything in this or just sit around
Well,
and watch you guys?
Well, he at least provided the studio,
Mm.
and the equipment we had there was not really better equipment and had time to play with it. It would have been a better album. Because we didn't have time to really figure out what we're doing. I couldn't get into my sustain, etc., like I'd
Yeah.
like to, etc., and neither could Bill. But all Frank basically did is sit there as an engineer, basically. Uh, they say he produced it. He didn't produce anything, but
Mm.
he's a wonderful guy. I'm not putting him down. He didn't have to do anything.
No,
In
imagine
fact, if
not.
you take, let's see, what's the name of it? Um, Ella Guru. Ella Guru.
Right.
Okay? When that song first starts, you'll hear me going, "Hello, moon. Hello, moon."
Yeah.
You can hear that. The reason being is here's Frank in the studio standing up with his 1-year-old Moon Zappa in his hands, holding her like this and watching. So I went, "Hello, moon. Hello, moon." That's how that came out.
Oh, that must have been great.
It was fun.
Now, did you guys play after that?
It was
Any
fun.
shows?
For some strange reason, Don hasn't let anybody. What was
Hasn't
that?
let anybody what? Keep going, sorry.
I said for some reason, Don never let anybody else sing anything but harmony. I'm the only one that's ever had the opportunity to sing lead, like the Blimp and Pina, and sing on Ella Guru.
Well, John told me he's got had all these detailed notes on every song.
Yeah.
I wish he still had that. That would have been amazing to see.
For it.
But you guys did all the music, and Don took credit for a lot of stuff, right? On that record?
Well, he wrote the parts, but John had to decide what to give which musician. So you take for instance, the bass. It's not like traditional bass, as you know. It's chord bass. Any of those parts could have gone to the guitar players, and vice versa. But Bill, for instance, Bill was very clear in what he does, and I'm more of the warm guitarist. Maybe not technically so clean, but I like warmth and feeling. So John would take the parts he felt that were better for me and give those to me, and give the other ones to Bill.
Got it.
The interesting thing is, so we're rehearsing all of these hours. Sometimes we would literally rehearse and then wake up in the morning, stand up and play.
Oh my gosh.
Practice again.
Man.
But this is a weird thing for John. First off, John had to spend a lot of time deciphering what was good and what to use from what Don played on the piano for most of Trout Mask. Most of it was done on the piano, and John had to take little parts and make sense of them and then give them to us. Don had no clue how it was going to go together. Or if he did, come up with these good little riffs, and then John would have to figure out who to give them to and what part of it to keep. And so we would rehearse them. So John was so busy doing that, he had very little time, you probably know, to play drums. But he did a fantastic job.
He did.
So here's what John had to do. What I had to do, I was the scribe. I didn't want to be the music guy. Even though I knew how to write music, I didn't want that job. John did, and he did a wonderful job.
He did.
I wanted the scribe job. So Don, here we go, in the evening time would come, and Don would take me in the friend, or speaking, and he said, "Take it down, man." So I became the scribe. I had to keep up track of all that, write it all down, figure out which word to use, because there are a number of words with different definitions, and they sound like the same word. So I had to do all of that and keep up on it. Well, sometimes that would work until morning. We'd be at it all night long. And then I'm like, time to go to sleep? Well, no, because now I hear the guys tuning up.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
Well, here I am with no sleep, having to go in and start playing and being spaced out.
Yeah, I imagine. And you guys were young guys too doing this, so it's phenomenal what you
Yeah.
came up with. So with the band, did everybody kind of like after that record kind of cool out and quit, or was people stick around?
Well, what really happened, I don't know if you've heard my story,
No.
but at one point, Don kicked John out of the band, kicked him down the stair, his arm or anything. So he's gone. So Don brings in this guy named Jeff Burchell, and Jeff wasn't a drummer. But Don didn't care about that. He didn't think like that. So teach him the drums. And Bill did a lot of that. Play this note here, hit the tom here like this. So we would rehearse until he could start to get up to speed. Well, okay, I'll tell you, is we're rehearsing. We're in between songs. Now, Don very seldom ever came out while we were rehearsing. He'd be sleeping until 10 or 11 and come out in his bathrobe. And he comes out in his robe and he stands behind, over here about 8 feet from the drummer, and he looks the drummer in the eye and he goes, just with his eye, he's telling him something. So the guy gets off his throne. He comes around to me, his foot up, and kicks me with a cowboy boot, knocks me down.
Wow.
I go to the hospital because now I have a punctured lung.
Oh my gosh.
So that's how I got extricated from the band. That's why I don't have any paraphernalia, any stuff to remember it by or to share with anybody. And I'm glad it happened, actually, because it got me out of that situation. The other guys were wishing it was them that got out of
That's something.
a hellhole at the time, emotionally and mentally. It was, you see, Bill, I think Bill said the same thing. You see, I got out of Vietnam. I didn't have to go. I got drafted.
Okay.
But of course, I didn't want to give up on, I'd just been in the band a little bit of time. It was back in the time with Alex, and we were more the Delta Blues kind of band and that.
Right.
I didn't want to give that up, nor did I want to go over and shoot up my brothers and sisters in Vietnam and their kids going on there. I love the military and I believe in the military. But for me, that was not the thing to do. And I knew that was the armchair warriors bullshit is what it was, that whole thing. Just putting money in the pockets of the politicians.
Of course.
So anyway, I got out, and I thought I was out of my Vietnam. I wasn't going to have to go. Well, I didn't realize it, but being in the Magic Band after Alex and Jerry left, so he couldn't BS them. In fact, Alex started the band, basically. Alex was the musician. He told Don where to sing and when to sing when he needed.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So anyway, here we are, and we're a bunch of young guys now, and he can bully us around, and he can use mind games. And he did. I mean, it was hell. It was hell. So I thought I'd gotten out of Vietnam. No, I had my own personal in the Trout Mask days. So it was very heavy. Now let's cut to a little bit later.
Right.
This is something not too many people have heard.
Okay.
So there was so much fear between us. It was like, he says that in one of his songs about fear in her windows. Well, that means through the eyes, everything you see, you're fearful, right? Well, we had been manipulated to the point that we lost communication with her in the band about anything that was going on, because it would get back to Don Valite, and then it would be the bathroom. We'd all have to go in the bathroom and the water be turned on. And today you're the bad guy, and everybody would have to go, yes, Don, you're right. The guy is crazy. He's trying to ruin what we're doing, all of this stuff. Well, so, and before this, when you think about it, going back to the days of when we played together, we were best friends. We never had an argument. John and I have never had an altercation, nor Mark, nor Bill. And to have, I'll say this, to have two guitar players like Bill and I that actually never had an ego trip. We just respected one another's playing.
That's the way it should
And
be.
I heard him saying one time, man, I'd come see Jeff and play a gig. This was back in the day. And then I'd have to go off and work on my stuff. Well, that's the way I felt too. But we were never at odds. We always appreciated one another. So when we came together and to do Trout Mask, we were so tight already and good friends. To me, and I bet you the other guys would say the same thing. Because of the nightmare we were living emotionally and mentally there, our only respite was in the music. In Trout Mask Replica. It was different, you know. We had to forget everything we'd ever learned and try to start over.
Right.
Right? So anyway, let's get to this point.
Okay,
so,
yeah, okay.
Thinking of how I got kicked like that by the drummer, and Don egged him on because they had already either talked about it or whatever. So this is the laundry room incident. We're in the Trout Mask time, probably a month or two before I got kicked out. Okay. Literally. Yeah. Now I can say it's fun. Okay. So Don comes around, and I take off. He's got his black leather jacket on. He's a big dude, right? And he can be intimidating. And of course, we were intimidated. He said, come outside. So he's got the black jacket on. And as we're walking out, I'm behind him. He's putting on his black leather gloves. Oh, boy. So something's up. Yeah. Yeah. So we walk into the laundry room. He turns around at me, and I'm looking right at him. Starts to punch. Trying to punch me out. I was looking him in the eye. I felt nothing. Oh, my God. I just looked him in the eye, and every punch he threw, I caught with my hand. Every fist, just like that. He couldn't get me. Okay. All of a sudden, he goes back 2 steps, and he goes, fuck, man, and turned around and walked out. That's like a raging bully, right? Jeez. Took me into, he was trying to get back at me because he couldn't do anything to me. And he didn't tell anybody, or he would have lost some of his control and mystique. And for some reason, I never thought about telling them until a couple of years ago. Wow. So that was strange things. Man, you lived a really an intense period of your life. I mean, it's just, now you could talk about it, but boy, that is now after that, did you play with those guys again, or was that it with the Beefheart crew? Yeah, after I got kicked out, I wasn't about to go back. And the other guys had told me later, man, we wished we were you, actually, because we were kind of stuck there. And, you know, they were there a lot longer than I was, years. And I'm going, man. Of course, things lightened up a little after Trout Mask. There's some good music that came out afterwards with the Magic Band. But there was never a Trout Mask Replica. Don told me one time, he says, you know what, there's never ever been or will be another band where 2 guitar players can do this stuff together. No. You know, after I left, they got what's his name on the Vibes? He was so good. Oh, what? Yeah, I know who you're talking about. You know what I mean? Yeah. Yeah. And he was awesome. It wasn't playing together. So like one of my favorites is Dolly's Car on the album. You familiar with that? It's I've heard guitars. That. I've heard it in a while though. Bill and me. Dong 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 dong. And to me, that's so awesome because it sounds like one instrument. Bill and I were so together. It's just like one well-oiled machine. Yeah, you guys were tight. I mean, yeah. But even though they did records after, nothing can really replicate that
space and time and that intensity of that record. A friendship with Don after that, or
Don.
was that it?
So I'm in the desert, and we're in the a liquor store. I think it was an ABC store or something in the Mojave Desert, Lancaster. Comes up to me and said, "Hey, man." He said, "How you doing?" I said, "Oh, I'm doing great." And I started telling him what I was doing. And he said, "Hey, I already know what you're doing. I've been keeping up with what you're doing, man. I know what you're up to and stuff." He was all friendly. And what he did say, so this kind of dates it. He says, "You heard about what's his name, the cowboy, the head John Wayne, right?
Right.
John Wayne died, right? I don't know if he had throat cancer or what."
Yeah.
And he says, "So I'm smoking a pipe now. No cigarettes. I'm smoking a pipe. I won't be safe." So that's the last time I saw Don that I can recall.
Oh my gosh. Wow. That's some story. Now, what about this band Mew that you were in?
Hey,
MU? I got to hear
yeah,
that one.
you haven't heard the album?
No, I haven't, unfortunately. I got to listen to
Okay.
it now.
Moo, M-U.
Moo, yeah. Let's hear about that.
And Moo is mind universal. It's the symbol for infinity in the Chinese language. It's mutual understanding. But anyway, the story of how that came together, if you want that at some point, we
Sure.
can give it, or we can do it in another interview.
Yeah,
But
whatever you want.
Moo, so anyway, what happened? Emotionally wrecked when I
Mm.
left. So anyway, I was back in the desert. Now, not for long, a month or two, and a good friend of mine, Charlie Aston, wanted to help me out. He was a good friend,
Mm.
and he rented us a place out in the middle of the desert.
Okay.
It's called Edwards Air Force Base, where the X-15 and the U-2 and all of those and all the UFOs and
Right.
stuff they
Come
were
in, right?
chasing there. A lot of stuff.
I'm
So
sure.
we rented a place for $40 a month, and
Mm.
it was an old homestead.
Okay.
You come up to the old house, and there's an old broken buckboard from the 1800s, it looks like, in the front.
Mm.
The house was fully furnished.
Oh my. Wow.
No. Anyway, we had running water, but the running water came from a cistern on the roof. That means if there is rain, it catches it, brings it in a tank, and then gravity feeds when you need it.
Okay.
It also had feather beds and pillows, and wind-up music. There was a wind-up record player
Oh, that's
still
pretty
there.
neat.
That old. So I go to sleep one night, and I wake up, and it's this. Like somebody is breathing in there,
Oh my.
sleeping there. There ain't nobody there. So
A
it was
ghost?
haunted.
Oh boy.
It was haunted.
Oh, that
So
must
dig
have been
this.
something.
A few days. This is just the beginning of the tip of the iceberg. So a few
Huh.
days later, I'm sitting out with Charlie. I got a rocking chair, a really nice old wood
Yeah.
rocking chair. It's a Lancaster, which is way, way off. And it's daytime, and I'm playing a soprano. No, not a soprano, a tenor sax. I don't know where Charlie got it from, but I was glad to have it because I've been playing horn before I played guitar.
Okay.
But I was playing clarinet. Now, if you can play clarinet, you can play saxophone.
Mm.
So anyway, I'm out there playing, and he's next to me, and all of a sudden, on the horizon, it's illuminated, and all of a sudden, this thing slowly starts growing larger and larger, coming closer. And it probably took an hour. And by the time it was this big in your field of vision, and it was like a big, what do you call it where you can see through it?
What was like
Would that
was a
be?
flying
Is that
saucer? Or?
opaque? Nope.
No.
It was like a square
Huh.
with the almost like seams, but you could see through it, and it was this light from it, and it kept coming closer and closer. And as it is, I'm going, you see that?
Oh my
Do you see
gosh.
that? He says, yeah, man. And we explain, we see the same thing. This isn't a hallucination. Until it came
Jeez.
so close that my peripheral vision, if I look straight ahead, from left to right, was covered with this thing.
Oh my gosh.
Then all of a sudden, gradually, it begins to fade away. Fade, not get smaller, just fade as if it was mist, and then it was gone. So I go back to my parents' place the next day because that blew my mind.
I would have, yeah.
And
I would have.
they lived in this trailer. Yeah, they lived in this trailer park out in the desert on 30th Street East, which is way out in the desert, really beautiful. And I called Merrell, and he and I formed Moo together.
Okay.
And this is how it happened. The vision of what I saw. He says, whoa, man, dig this. At the same time as that happened to me, he was in Woodland Hills with his band, with Randy Weimer, who is the drummer of Moo.
Right.
And he's also the drummer on my second album coming up and the co-writer on my first album, The Fantasy of Reality.
Okay.
So it happened. He was in the room. His bass player was with him there. And he gets a knock at the door, and there are these two little guys there. And he says they looked like hobbits. They were just down like hobbits. And they had this little pouches. And they said, is Jeff Cotton here? And he said, no, he's in the desert. He's in the desert. And they were wanting to see me for some reason. He said he thought they were from the
Oh my gosh.
Who? I think me. But anyway, so they say, can we come in? And he says, yeah, come on in. Now he's got a fire going in the fireplace. It's winter there. It's not real cold in LA, but it's cold enough to have a fireplace. And they're sitting there like this, kind of going like this, kind of down like this. And the guy goes and he reaches in his pouch and he pulls his powder out and throws it in the fire. He goes,
wow. Oh my God.
Next thing Merrell remembers is he's on, what's the boulevard? I keep forgetting the boulevard.
Sunset Boulevard?
No, it's not Sepulveda. It's in Woodland Hills. At any rate, he comes to and he's walking briskly on the boulevard and he's feeling these energies coming past him going buffeting his body. And then he starts collecting his thoughts and going, what am I doing here?
Yeah.
So
what a story.
He ran to his house, Jim, the bass player, on it. Now he's 6'2" or 3", Jim, big guy. And he's on his knees crawling around underneath the kitchen table, disoriented. And the wife is still in the other room. So we went, wow, this must mean something.
Yeah.
Woo, woo, woo. Let's get a band together again. Now, he and I had been together in the Exiles, the first band that I was with that recorded.
Right.
So we started in Moo. All my time in Beefheart, I was a writer before I joined the Magic Band.
Oh, okay.
But when you get in the Magic Band, you can't use any of your writing or your talents. If you do, you have to do it under the table, so to speak. Slip it in. Don didn't want everybody to have credit. So I had to bottle up my creativity on that level through the whole Magic 2.5 years or whatever it was in the Magic Band. But now that I'm in Moo, I was out of me. Wait till you hear that album. You'll know what I mean.
I got to listen to it. I can't wait.
It's got the Magic Band edge, but it's got melody, and it's something that, well, it became very, very successful in Southern California and in Europe.
Well, it got a lot of critical acclaim.
But anyway,
no commercial success, but you had I read a lot of, acclaim to that record.
it just didn't have a good record company. The record companies thought we were too far out.
Okay. Well,
They
after
thought we
that
were too far out,
experience,
and
what
we
did they
weren't so
expect, right? After that experience you guys had?
exactly.
Yeah. After that,
Yeah,
man,
totally. So anyway, that's how Moo formed, and I got a good story for you.
sure.
Randy and I early on became interested in the esoteric sciences.
Okay.
That all of a sudden we decided, you know what, we're going to become vegetarian. We went really strict. We went straight to fruitarian. We lived on fruits for a year.
Really? Huh.
And it's the clearest mind mentally that I have ever been in my life because it cleanses the system. There's nothing that you have to digest that's really hard on the system, so the
Right.
brain is still clear, etc. But anyway, we got interested in the esoteric. Went through that whole thing. Well, the reason we wanted to be in this particular order is the 7th degree, it's the 6th degree, I guess it was the healing degree.
Mm.
And so we were fortunate enough to be taken under the wing of a past master of the lodge itself,
Okay.
who had been 20 years in it. And he, sorry guys, but he gave us what we wanted. We didn't have to go through all of the degrees of the order for years because we really wanted healing through music. And so when you listen to that album, there's a song called Eternal Thirst that I wrote while I was in the desert before Moo started.
Okay.
And so that song, it's a kind of like a surreal picture, almost cartoony, lyrically, but musically far out bottleneck. And the drums in it, there's a drum solo, a long African drum solo in it.
Oh,
now this
okay.
was, keep in mind, this was done in 1971. There wasn't a lot of stuff like this around. In fact, there wasn't any. So here we are, and we tailor this song, and we do a chant, a special chant in the middle of the drum solo. All of a sudden, the chant comes in over the drums, and it's really far out. It's really nice. We did it for it's a specific vibration. And the only thing strange about the drumming being African is the engineer at the time took the foot pedal. Now, keep in mind, this is what, 2-inch tape? There was no digital back then. So he reversed the drum pedal. So it goes instead of hitting and then like that. Yeah. And that took a lot of work to cut and splice all that tape. So it comes out, we did over 100 interviews that next year.
Oh my gosh.
Live by driving all over California, all colleges, radio stations. We did TV, news. We were on Channel 2 News, etc. And we did this one particular program. It's on this radio station, which is called the Clear Channel.
Okay.
That's kind of like Conrad, like the channel states there's an emergency.
Okay.
So Hilly Rose was the what do you call him?
Interviewer?
The DJ or whatever.
Okay.
And he says, you guys sidle on up to the microphone. So we came on up. And so at that time, we were espousing spiritual life, living, spiritual lifestyle, vegetarianism, all this other stuff. And we would play a song. Well, he played Eternal Thirst. Soon as that song, I don't even know if the song was even over yet. He gets a call and makes it live on the air so everybody can hear it. It's this guy back east somewhere who was asleep, and the song comes on. He's crippled. He has something wrong in his back.
Okay.
He's great pain. He wakes up and hears this. So all that happened on the air.
On the air?
There are millions of listeners.
That's incredible.
Right. Hilly patched it right through so everybody could hear it.
Jeez, that is
So
amazing.
anyway, that's what Moo was about. Then in 1970, late 73, we
Okay.
moved to Maui. We wanted
Oh,
to
okay.
get back to nature, and we came over here. We did the first, which is a big famous thing, was for years after that. And we packed the Lahaina Civic Auditorium in Lahaina, Maui. Had another band open for us. We did very few concerts, but that was really a good one. We had at the time we had a record out being played
Okay.
all over the islands. And so we packed it, and that was great. And
Wow.
then there came a time when musically, the two of us writers actually drifting in other directions. He was a great songwriter, and he was going more toward the direction of back to the commercial type of stuff. And
Mm.
I wanted to go the other direction. I had been way out there,
Yeah.
and so I wanted to maybe take it a little further than the first Moo album. Well, and being young still, I didn't have the skills to talk to somebody and say, I really appreciate what you're doing. I respect it, but it doesn't work for me. Didn't have those skills. Since then, I have. I've done a lot of stuff. I've done a lot of
Yeah.
healing work, a lot of growth work because I know I needed it, and
Yeah.
I'm just hungry for truth anyway. You know,
Okay. Yeah.
in the days of Moo, all we had to do, we had a beautiful, you could call it a rock ranch. We had
Yeah.
I own a quarter or half acre. We had a big sized pool, 40 by 20-foot swimming pool, had a nice Cadillac. We're playing for the jet setters, basically. We play the Hilton hotels, the Beverly Hilton,
Mm.
Statler Hilton, all of those different places. And it was bread and butter, but it got us so tight. I really can appreciate when you play live over and
Yeah.
over what it does to the band. We
Yeah.
didn't get to do that in the Magic Band in the Trout days. We didn't get to play enough to do that. But at any rate, that spoke to me audibly.
Mm.
Now dig this. I've done a few pretty cool things. I've been on stage, in Rome and all that stuff that we'd done. It was on some of it. One time it was on the news.
Mm.
17 million people watched it, and all of
Wow.
this kind of stuff. And I'm young. It didn't go to my head because I didn't have time for it to go to my head, I guess.
Mm.
You're just trying to keep up with your music and do these things and meet all these and stuff and that kind of stuff. But at any rate, what was I going to tell you about
So
that?
did you think that in this day and age that these records would still be so listened to and still have a life? It's pretty amazing.
Actually, I did. I
Okay.
definitely knew Trout Mask would.
Yeah.
Don came to us one time when we were still learning the music. He says, man, one of these days, later on in your life, people are going to come up to you and they're going to go, wow. And so we knew that would be something. It didn't put any money in anybody's pocket. Of course, I didn't really care about that.
No,
I love doing the music. You know what
yeah.
it is? As a musician, you do it because
Right.
you love music.
Now, did you play in any of the reunion shows that John French put on or any of that?
John
Period?
asked me a number of times if I would, and I said, no, thanks, John. At that time, I was working on some healing work for my own self,
Okay.
and I did a lot of stuff. Nonviolent communication or compassionate communication is a fantastic program.
That is great.
I've done, and then I got into healing work. My wife and I, at the time, this was back, would have been 1976 and 7, to Canada, all over Hawaii, California, and we were not paid by a church
Okay.
because we believed to be the Word of God, not what they told us it meant.
Right.
We wanted to, through our own prayer and connection, know what truth is. So that's what we followed, and it was amazing. We didn't have money, but money would come in the mail. All of a sudden, money come in the mail, please come to Molokai and put a program on for us. And here's $250 for tickets. It's like we were totally self-sufficient, not self, God sufficient. If he wants you to do something and you're willing to do it, he'll provide. But anyway, so I did the medical missionary work. I'm an iridologist. I learned iridology, which is diagnosis of disease through the iris of the eye.
Okay.
Every happening in the eye. Because the whole body is tied together through the nervous systems. And anything happening in the toe actually will show up in the eye and vice versa. So I did that. I learned that and some basic chiropractic. We were so fortunate to have two elderly medical missionaries take us under their wings, and teach us the basics. So we'd go and we'd play an hour music together, she and I. And then we would give a health lecture of about 2 hours, and we'd take it all from the Bible. All the health, the physical health is there. And so we just say da-da-da, and then we would diagnose. I would diagnose, and then we would do chiropractic or acupressure and work with people. And I've seen some miracles. It's been amazing. But anyway, so John, I appreciate it. But I got some healing work to do, and my best way of healing is not by playing music only. My way is to learn different modalities, cutting edge stuff that are, you probably heard of Rife. Have you heard of Rife?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
There was frequency healing happening and all kinds of stuff. And I got out of Moo. God said, I want you to learn to live. And I'm going, hello? No, really live. I thought I did. I thought I'd been really, it's been an exciting ride. He said, no. He said, you will understand if you decide to continue what I'm talking about. And gradually he showed me the kind of guy that you put him in his wheelchair, you give him an instrument, you take him out into the audience or out there, and then he plays his part, and then you take him back and you wheel him in the closet and you close the closet till the next time. If you're not following what I'm saying, just a musician, no life, no relationship. And God said, it's time for you to have a family. So I got married. He gave me a beautiful genius woman, and we played together too. Don't have any recordings that are released. Well, we did some really good gigs and stuff. But at any rate, so after that, I was basically out of the business. I didn't want to have anything to do with the music business. John said, you want to go? I said, no. I refused all the interviews that they did. And there were some big interviews and stuff out there. It just wasn't my path anymore. But I never left music. I left the business. And fortunately today, we have a recording studio.
Okay.
And it's state of the art. So that when you listen to The Fantasy of Reality, which is my first release in 50 years.
Oh, wow.
You'll be able to hear the quality. The quality is there.
So that must be fantastic. Anyway, so to have a studio in Hawaii must be beautiful to get that vibe too of that area there.
Oh, it's beautiful. And I'm so grateful because I can take the time to do music. I started some businesses after I got out of the music businesses, little businesses. The first thing I did in 1980 is I went from playing music and watching these, quote, guys down there sweeping up afterwards, right, and doing the janitorial thing. I started a janitorial company. And it was very successful. To me, it's all music. Life is music.
Yeah. Sound.
I mean, what else can I say?
Sound, right? Frequency.
Yes.
So it's about
sound. And music doesn't lie, neither does the mouth. You can say the words that are a lie, but the body and the vibration, for those who have eyes to see, will see through it, or ears to hear. When I was doing the janitorial work, I'm ready to go, and I see that I missed a little piece of paper under the desk. I go back and I get it.
Mm,
You know, it's like music. It's the same thing. If
yeah,
it isn't the way that you know the best you can do, you do something about it. And that
right.
builds your self-confidence. It builds up your character.
Mm,
You know, if you sweep it under the carpet, you're not going to have a very good self-esteem, no matter
no.
what you put on. You know what I'm saying?
Now, who's on this record, the new record? Who are the musicians that you got for this?
Fantasy of Reality,
Yes,
my new album.
right. Who plays on
Okay,
it?
here, first off, let's see if you can see it. Whoops, you can't
Oh,
see it because I have the screen in the back.
okay.
After this, I'll send you a copy.
Okay, great. I'll put it.
This album, yeah. Now let me tell you about the album. There is music on there. One song that goes back to the days of Moo, 1971. Some of the other musicians didn't want that particular song on our Moo album,
Mm,
and so I recorded it. Keep in mind this. When I got out of the music business, I always wanted to have a studio. But music was audio was going to digital. And I
right.
didn't like the sound of digital. Hard edged like a
Yeah.
hospital, you know what I mean?
Yep,
Clean
you're
like a
right.
hospital. And so it took years. In 95, I came across some new equipment that I felt bridged the gap of the two.
Mm,
And so I lived at that time in northern Washington, Bellingham, Washington, had a beautiful studio downstairs. And I put the setup and I started recording.
mm,
So there's one song that goes back that far on the Fantasy of Reality album. Yet there are songs that were just a few years back, maybe
okay, right. Mm,
20, I think, some of the latest. It's basically, I'll use this word, a smorgasbord. It's
okay.
22 songs,
Wow, that's a lot.
7 genres of music.
Holy
I wrote
smokes.
all the music. Uh, Randy Weimer, who was the drummer in Moo, and in Blues in a Bottle, by the way, points of time. Randy did some of the lyrics with me. He helped with the lyrics and really, really sharpened them up.
Mm,
So there are 22 songs, instruments, everything. Nobody else plays on the album. That's
just
keyboards,
you. Okay,
numerous horns,
okay.
everything. The only real instrument I didn't play on the album is the drums. I used digital, but I programmed them and
Okay.
arranged them. But everything else, the horns, the guitars, the bottleneck, all harmonies, harmonica, and I
Wow.
played soprano sax, straight soprano, bass clarinet. It was put out on Madfish Records from London
Okay.
in 2021 or two. And depends on how you market things, you know. Because of my Beefheart days, they wanted to market it to the Beefheart clan. And
Right.
I knew that I wasn't really going to make them happy. There
Okay.
was 1 or 2 songs that I considered to be in the vein and kinds. And I write all the time. I mean, I try not to write
Okay.
because if I pick up a guitar when I wake up, a song's going to come out, and then I'm going to have to record it, and then I have more responsibility and more songs, and I don't
Mm.
need that now.
No,
I
no.
just like to spend, you know, I want to go back in the studio and start recording. Second album is near complete.
Who's going to be drums again?
John will be on some of them.
Oh, that's great to
Pardon?
hear. That is great.
Yeah. And Bill Harkleroad may be playing on one of them if I can get him the tracks soon. So that would be great. It would be a reuniting of the Trout Mask Blues in the Bottle, except for Mark. And I would love to have Mark Boston on it too. He lives way out in the country. I don't know if he could actually be able to take the file and record on it to send it to me. But at any rate, the second album is finished except for the drums. Randy Weimer has played on 5 of the songs, and there is another bass player, my engineer, Andre Delorier. He's
Okay.
also a fine bass player, so he plays on some of the songs. Many of them I do all the other instrumentation.
I want to pick
Yeah.
up your new record. I gotta right after I'm offline here. I'm gonna try to buy it. Is it available on that label site, or is there distributors that are selling
Mad
it?
Fit. It's yeah, and you can hear it on everything. I mean, it hasn't gotten a lot of play or a lot of smoke, of
It
course,
should.
because of it. Yeah, it is now. There was so much music. It is a double album on the vinyl. There's
Wow,
a double vinyl. All the lyrics are on it. Um,
that's very
Double
nice of the.
vinyl,
That's
beautiful
very nice
quality.
that. That's very nice that you got a label that actually put it out on vinyl. I mean that nowadays they're just putting out CDs or digital.
That's right. I'm very, very appreciative of Ian, who owns the record company. He's the president of the record company. He knew it wasn't going to be a big hit, but he wanted
Mm,
to honor the musicians, you know.
yeah.
There's a CD as well. And in the CD is an insert, it opens, but there's an insert with all the lyrics on it.
Right.
And Cal Schinkel, who did the Trout Mask Replica um, layout and all of that,
Right.
he also worked on this.
Oh,
So Ian wanted to bring him in on that. So that it's there. Second album, I'm not sure when it's coming out. I've got to get the drums finished,
okay.
how we're going to market that. And the third album's almost done.
A little bit. I know this is controversy about the fire a little bit.
Aha.
You're okay.
Okay,
You're
my
okay
friend.
from that, right? You didn't. Your house wasn't touched or
Well,
burned.
here's no. Here's the story. I was living at the time, and Andre and I were living in our 3 bedroom, 2 bath recording studio house.
Okay.
And this is ULA Maui. And there were like 5 fires that started. It's
Hmm.
not one fire. And
Okay.
there was no lightning, none of that, nothing
Hmm.
natural. So, what we would do is we would go out in the evenings, and he's an audio visual man. So he'd put up a 10-foot screen on the side of the garage and a projector, and we'd watch the movies we want to watch.
Okay.
So we're setting up a movie. Not a half mile away, I see a laser beam
Oh
come
boy.
straight vertically down. And when it hit the ground, it was like an atomic bomb. Keep in mind, Maui was as dry, it was a tinderbox.
Okay.
And that's
Right.
all done
Okay.
on purpose through weather control, weather
Of course.
manipulation. So this thing hits and it just goes out like this. And then all of a sudden, what had its thing, all the colors of the fire, the reds, the
Yeah.
browns, the yellows, are refracted up in that beam as it dissipates. Right up like this, all the color in it, and then it's gone. Now, there were 40 and 45-mile-an-hour winds. I was a half a mile or a quarter of a mile, between a quarter and a half away. If those winds would have been in my direction, we would have lost everything in 20 minutes.
Oh my
But
gosh.
instead, it went down to Kihei.
Hmm.
Did a lot of damage, but I heard there were a few art galleries and things that got burnt.
Oh boy.
So that's only one of the fires. So I have no reason to believe otherwise than all of this was orchestrated to the point. In
Hmm.
fact, I have seen now what this is. It's called DEW. That type of warfare is DEW,
Okay.
DEW, and what that stands for is directed energy weapons.
Hmm.
Our
I heard that.
military has had it for many years. I think this was done through satellite. And
Oh,
what
it
it
had to
is,
be.
yeah. So it's laser, but it's microwave technology. So it burns from the inside out, cooks. Okay? I have
Man.
seen, so the day after that, I was so shook up. I did 2 videos, one that day and one the next day, where I wrote the songs and put them out. Drums, I just used one drum behind the whole thing, one riff, but I wanted the music out there so people would know. And you can see them online if you look up Jeff
Okay.
Cotton. Um, there's about 7-minute videos where I'm talking to the people and telling them how I feel, because this is a place I love. And to see people lose not only their homes that that may have been in the family for 100 years, children, many people lost. They're saying, oh, there was 103. Not true.
No, I don't believe that either.
Not true. People were concerned, and I got back to those who, and I hope the video would get out there. They don't want to hear the truth.
No.
We know
right
who owns the whole bunch of stuff.
Yep.
And now it's back on. What you want to look for, there's 2 songs. You can stream them.
Okay.
One is called Lahaina.
Okay.
Lahaina, because that talks about how it hit, etc. And the other one is called Where Are the Children?
Oh, okay.
The state website, the Hawaii state website, showed at that time children missing. And there are still people that will not believe this. I've told people that are close to me that I watched the laser start the fire, and they say, I can't get that. No. It's a worldwide phenomenon.
Yep.
And that's why right now they're trying to clean up, and I'm so grateful. I really believe that we are going to have a gold do. And I say that from knowledge, because I have the time to research. When the legacy media says this and that, and then the alternatives say this and that, I go study. If I can find the documents, I look at the documents.
Yeah. Well, that's what you got to do. You can't believe everything you're hearing. People do. Unfortunately, they're brainwashed to believe this. They're like a horse, with
blinders
looking
on.
Straight ahead. Yep. What are you going to do, unfortunately? But you know the truth. And that's
Nazi Germany, what happened to the Jews?
Right.
That's what happened to the Jews.
Yep.
They had plenty time, and they had heard that there's something going on here.
Yep.
They could have gotten out, but people were so brainwashed. It's you can call it brainwashing, or you can call it
it's like mind control. They're like mind control.
It is mind control.
And how they controlled the big C, with all this craziness that went on. You were recording during that period, right? During that whole frenzy.
Yes, I was recording the second album. I think I'd started on the second album. Yeah, amazing. So I know what happened.
Yeah. Totally.
And
we know the truth.
We do know the truth, and the truth will set you free.
Yes. So where can we find your music, Jeff?
Well, it's probably, it's everywhere. For anybody, and I have to get this together. I bought what wasn't sold by the record company. They were kind enough to sell back to me.
Okay.
I don't know. I haven't looked in a long time to see if it's still there. It should be. But for anybody, and I have to get this together, I bought what wasn't sold by the record company. They were kind enough to sell back to me.
Okay.
So I have several thousand probably CDs and vinyl, and I'm going to get it together so I can actually sell them at a good price, which will help me and it'll help them. The double vinyls, 100 of them have a poster of the internal part of it, actual nice big poster that comes along with it.
Well,
but anyway, you and I can talk about that later.
Yeah, send me what the price would be, and then I'll send it out to the listeners here, and hopefully we can get some copies to some people. Would you be kind enough to autograph some of them?
Here's some music.
I can't wait to hear this.
I would be glad to autograph them for sure. So I'll get that part together because I have to use they have to have an email address.
Okay.
I have an email address that got taken down, but I'll get that back together.
Get that to me.
And we're off.
Fantastic.
Yeah, I'll send you a copy. Can you play vinyl?
Oh, of course.
Do you have a record player?
I still have a lot of old records. So I didn't sell a lot of them, but I have at least a couple hundred records left. So yeah, I still play vinyl. I want to hear this on vinyl. That's
awesome.
Where I want to hear this on vinyl, for sure.
Yeah, it'll be warm. It'll be good. I think you'll enjoy it.
This has been fantastic. I want to thank you for your time.
It
You're a
has.
legendary player. You're still doing music, and healing people and
Yeah.
doing something positive for the planet. And that's another great thing.
Well, I'd like to do,
So
Yeah,
great,
and
great.
thank you so much, Dennis.
Oh, thank you again. I mean, this whole series has been great, and you're the third Captain Beefheart interview of somebody from that period. So it's been quite a story.
So you did John.
And
You
Bill,
did John. Who else did you do? You did
Bill,
Bill.
yeah,
Awesome.
he didn't.
Cool.
That was a
Cool.
short interview, though. He's a quiet, very quiet guy. Real nice fella. John was great. He was
Spent so many years. Yeah.
that book he wrote. He sent
Good.
me the copy of
Good.
the book. It's like, holy smoke, 600 pages. It's amazing.
I know.
So
Yeah, it is amazing. It's a great, great reference for the band.
yep. So have a great rest of the day.
So
there
send
in
me.
Hawaii. Go ahead.
I will, and send me your. Can you your phone number, or maybe
Sure.
tell me your phone number,
Sure, I'll send you
and
the
that
phone.
way we can communicate.
Yeah, I'll send you my phone number, and
You want to just take that part from the.
yeah, I'll send it through Facebook. I'll send you my phone number and email address, and we could talk on the phone once in a while. And boy, these stories are great.
Hey, just between you and me, I'll send you some of the new stuff.
I would love to hear that.
But you gotta get the Moo album. You gotta hear the Moo album.
I'm gonna get that.
And you know what? You can stream it. It's on. It's still out
Okay.
there.
And I'll give you my
Moo.
opinion. Moo. Okay.
Yeah.
I feel bad I didn't listen to it yet, but now I'm
Oh,
now I'm
those are
really
to the
intrigued.
Magic Band.
Right. I'm really intrigued now to hear that.
Yeah.
So, okay, Jeff. Well, it's been a
Cool.
pleasure, and have a good rest of the day
It
in Hawaii.
has.
Thank you for your time. Take
Thank
care
you,
now.
brother. Thank
Take
you. It's
care.
been a
Thank you
pleasure for
again.
me.